New Enterprise, rebooted Enterprise, alternate timeline Enterprise, alternate universe Enterprise, Beastie Boys Enterprise, JJ Trek, JJ Prize, Abomination. Whatever you call it, in the game of Star Trek Online, it is called the Kelvin Timeline Heavy Command Cruiser Tier 6 Starship. Listen, all of y'all, it's a sabotage. Oh boy, I've done it now. Hello Captains, and welcome to my Star Trek Online Starship review of the Kelvin Timeline Heavy Command Cruiser Tier 6 Starship. I hope you all enjoyed the introduction. Unfortunately, I was not able to use any Beastie Boys music. That would have been absolutely perfect for the intro. Copyrights and all that, you know how it goes. I was not able to use any of the music, but boy, that sure would have fit, wouldn't it, if I was able to use something like Sabotage during that intro. Oh well, what can you do? So, as I mentioned, this is going to be my in-game Star Trek Online review of this starship. Prepare for a pretty lengthy video, although I will try to cut it where I can and keep things straight to the point. There is, however, a lot to go over with this ship. There's a lot of information for me to impart to you first about this starship, and I want to do all that. So this first part of the video will be me actually reading from several pieces of paper I have printed out with a ton of information on it for me to read to you. Now, I might be able to actually show you some of this if we go to where you can buy this ship. So here she is in the game. You saw her in the montage intro. This is the ship. It's a good view of it here on the outside. We'll just zoom in. We'll look at it closer in a little bit. But this just gives you a visual view of what you're looking at right here. As far as size goes, this is a very large ship in the game. And of course, as we know, from the movies as well. It is about the size of a Galaxy class in Enterprise D, Galaxy class 24th century Starship. So it is large. Now, where do you get this ship, you might ask? Well, first of all, this ship was introduced in 2016 into this game, Star Trek Online. It was the summer of 2016. This was out with the expansion called Agents of Yesterday. This was in, and is in, the Kelvin Timeline lockbox. You can also find it in the Infinity lockbox. And lastly, it is also on the exchange. And it's about 300 million energy credits currently on the exchange. So if you are not able to be lucky with a lockbox, you can definitely get it from the exchange. You're just going to be spending a lot of energy credits. So like I mentioned, for the first part of this video, we are going to beam down to Earth Space Dock, and we're going to take a look at the ship in terms of specs and information. And then in the second part, we will go into space. I will show you my build, and then we'll take it into combat and utilize some of its features and allow me to show off its abilities, like its unique console and its Starship Trait and its unique weaponry, because this thing has a unique weaponry set that's very different from anything else. I want to bring this up in the exchange just to show you. If you want to search for Kelvin Timeline, that should pretty much bring it up. If it doesn't, do Kelvin Timeline Heavy Command, and that should bring it up. And there it is, Kelvin Timeline Heavy Command Cruiser Tier 6, and as you can see, the cheapest is around 300 million energy credits. If we right-click this, this is going to give you some information which I will be reading from, and you can read along here as well. I think some of this mirrors actually what I printed out already, so I'll just read straight from here, and then anything else I'll fill in with the information. But as you can see, there's a lot to read here. So if you want to sit through and listen to this, of course you can do that to get all the specifications of the ship. If you want to skip forward in the video, you are definitely welcome to do that. Like I said, we will be doing a lot of combat with the ship. I don't know what I have planned yet, but I'm just going to jump in and do whatever I can get into. So you're welcome to listen along here. This intro going over the specs will take a little bit of time, but I'm going to try to read through this. So here we go. Direct from the 23rd century of an alternate timeline, this Constitution-class vessel leads the way into a new frontier. Starfleet puts their best on ships of this class, and their actions can be source of inspiration to all. Big and durable, the Heavy Command Cruiser is prepared to seek strange new worlds. This starship features a Commander Engineering / Command Bridge Officer Station and a Lieutenant Science / Temporal Operative Bridge Officer Station. Command ships are impressive vessels designed to inspire those around them. When the command ship activates a bridge officer ability, it will receive a small amount of the inspiration resource. Command bridge officer abilities generate additional inspiration. Once a command ship's inspiration meter is full, they can use one of 3 powerful abilities that can turn the tide of battle. The Kelvin Timeline Heavy Command Cruiser Tier 6 comes equipped with the Auxilary Ejection Assembly. Redundancy and backup systems are common on Federation starships, regardless of the timeline. The Federation of the Kelvin Timeline, however, takes this to the extreme by decentralizing portions of their warp core assembly into auxiliary warp cores. By installing similar contingencies, these smaller antimatter chambers can be ejected and detonated in case of emergencies, damaging foes and freeing the Federation vessel from effects that impair its maneuverability. Having this console equipped will increase the damage dealt by your exotic damage abilities, while also increasing both current and maximum auxiliary subsystem power. Note, sources of max power do not stack, only the strongest applies per subsystem. This console mod can be equipped on any ship in any console slot. You may only equip one of these mods on a single ship. After achieving level 5 in your Kelvin Timeline Heavy Command Cruiser Tier 6 Starship Mastery, you will unlock the Down But Not Out Starship Trait. While this trait is slotted, and as your ship takes damage, you are able to reroute power from damaged systems to increase the maximum power potential of all your subsystems, allowing a higher capacity on your potential performance. Now, that's a lot of information right there, but the important parts are to note. This ship has some unique command bridge officer station seating, temporal operative bridge officer station seating, so it's got two different specialties in bridge officer seating. This definitely leans toward more of an engineering slash cruiser ship, you know, very big and bulky and heavy, take a lot of damage. Also take note of this inspiration stuff that it's talking about. There's these inspiration abilities in the ship, and they build power levels as you utilize bridge officer abilities. As you actually punch your bridge officer abilities on the hotbar, it builds this meter, which allows you to use 3 different inspiration abilities that this ship has. So that's unique to this ship. Also, the console mod is basically the eject warp cores thing from the movie, where they use that to collapse the black hole or whatever. You can eject these multiple warp cores, and it does damage, and you can get away from an enemy very fast. And then, of course, the Starship Trait, which basically is going to give you more power as you take damage. And we'll go over the specifications here in just a second. Let me just check my papers here and make sure that I got everything that is of note here. It has, let's see. So obviously you can tell from this it's very much an alternate universe ship. It is from another timeline, the movie timeline, which is not the Prime universe. So this is a completely different timeline ship. Yeah, that's pretty much that is it on all my notes there in terms of information. The same things I had printed out was actually right here, so that was easy to hit up. So now we can talk about the specs here. Now, as you can see, this is an Admiral ship. You need to be Admiral rank to fly this ship. It's Tier 6. It's got different hull strength levels based on your level. Once you're level 60, the hull strength is 58,000. Shield modifier is 1.1, so that helps just a little bit. You have 4 forward weapon slots and 4 aft. 4 device slots. You've got 1 Lieutenant Commander Tactical, 1 Ensign Engineering, 1 Commander Engineering / Command, so you can use command abilities. You can have Commander level command abilities. 1 Lieutenant Science / Temporal Operative, so you can have Temporal Operative abilities as well. You can have 1 Lieutenant Commander Universal, so you can make that anything you want. You've got 4 Tactical console slots, 4 Engineering, and 3 Science, so pretty balanced between Tactical and Engineering. Base turn rate is 8. Impulse modifier is 0.15. Inertia is 40, plus 5 to all power levels. Here's the Universal Auxilary Ejector Assembly. The inspiration abilities are called Turn the Tide, Against All Odds, and Battle Preparation. We will look at that in space so you can see what they actually do. And then, of course, this has the Cruiser Starship Ability Package, Absorptive Plating, Rapid Repairs, Enhanced Plating, Armored Hull, and then the Starship Trait is called Down But Not Out. And then it's got the full Cruiser Command Array. You got Strategic Maneuvering, Shield Frequency, Weapon System Efficiency, and Attract Fire. This ship is loaded to the brim. If you take anything away from all these specifications, take away the fact this ship is loaded. I mean, they have put everything in the kitchen sink on this thing. So that makes it a very useful ship in the game. You can do a lot with it. It makes it versatile, and it allows you to customize it, and everybody can have very different builds. So that's very cool about this ship. Again, let me just look at my papers real quick, make sure we've talked about everything. It's actually going pretty quick here. Yeah, that's actually it on the specs. That did not take long at all, did it? Alright, let's move on to the fun stuff. Let's take a look at how we can customize this ship visually. You've got the ship, now you want to take it and customize it, make it look a little different, because you've got the default view, which you saw in space. It's actually really cool looking, but there's more you can do with this ship. And there's actually things you can do with this ship people might not be aware of, so hopefully this will enlighten you. Here's the default view. It's called Kelvin Timeline Constitution. It looks, first of all, the first thing to note about this ship is this is not the refit ship from one of the later movies. This is also not the A from the last movie. In the very last J.J. Trek movie, they actually destroyed the ship and rebuilt it into the NCC 1701A. This is not the A refit. There was also a refit between like the first movie and one of the other movies. Maybe it was Beyond, I don't know which one actually, but one of the movies they actually had a refit Enterprise. Now you can tell if it's the refit several different ways. First of all are the impulse engines. These impulse engines scream original design. In the refit, these are much wider and they take up more space back here. Another design difference would be back here on the nacelles. They look different on the back on the refit than they do on this version. And then also, of course, the Bussard collectors in the front also look different between the original version and the refit version, and also the deflector dish will look a little different too. And also where the pylons meet the nacelles and how wide apart they are, that's also a dead giveaway that this is the first iteration or first drawing, the first design of the Kelvin Timeline Constitution in the movie. Now what that says to me is Cryptic could in the future, if they wanted to really bank on this ship, and you know they want to bank on ships, they could come out with an even newer ship, a refit version of this ship, which would look like the refit version, or the NCC 1701-A version of this ship, the Kelvin Timeline A version of the ship, which would also look different. So that gives them room, by using this first design of the ship, that gives them room later on to have a couple of more different types of this ship in the future if they really need money, you know, and they want to sell lockboxes. And believe me, they might go that route in the future. They do that. They do tend to do that. But this leaves them room to do that by using this first design. This first design by fans is also not very well taken. This is also one of the lesser liked designs of this ship. The refit version looks better, and then the A version looks even better. So this is one of the more disliked versions of the ship. But that's what we've got. And technically this is not the Enterprise, so keep that in mind. This is the Yorktown. Although everyone's going to connect it to the Enterprise in the Star Trek movies. Alright, so here's what we get with the base design of the ship. Pretty familiar if you've seen the movies. If you haven't seen the movies, you'll be, what the heck is that thing? But yeah, that's from the movies. Now, here's what you can do with it. You can change the windows. No, you can't change the windows. I take that back. You can't. You can change the interior. Actually, no, you can't. You're stuck with the Kelvin Connie current bridge. At least it's a unique bridge. So you get the unique bridge, and we will take a look at that. It's very shiny, of course. But you do just have that bridge. But what you can change here is materials. If you own different things, different materials, veteran status, all that stuff. We've got the regular, this is the Constitution for this ship. You have, if you own the Dreadnought, the Vengeance, you can actually use the Vengeance skin on this ship and make it look like that. And since I own the Vengeance, and we will have a review of that in the future, you can make it look like that. I kind of like that. It's cool. It's not bad. Now, this is what's really cool. You have this Type O skin. Now, what does that look like to you, folks? That looks like the classic Enterprise, the original Star Trek Enterprise skin, and it even has the red deflector dish. That's right. So the Type 0, you can put that on this. Most people may not know that this skin even exists. So you can take this Kelvin Timeline Heavy Command Cruiser and make it look more like the original series Enterprise, at least in skin and appearance. You've got the red deflector dish, and so you're wondering, but what about the Bussard collectors? They're still blue, and in that show they were red. Okay, that's easily taken care of by going to nacelles and choosing Constitution Beta. And look what happened. You've got red Bussard collectors. Oh my gosh. Yeah, most people don't know that's there either. So now I've got the TOS skin, the original series skin. I have the red deflector dish, red orangish deflector dish, and the Bussard collectors are red. So this is as close to the original series Enterprise Constitution as you're going to get. Period. End of story. That's as close as you're going to get. So that's cool. I don't know why they call it beta, but that's what they call it. Constitution Beta. And that's all you can change, by the way. Notice there's nothing else. Now you do have other skins. You've got from the other, game ships. You've got the tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And what I like, if you're a veteran, this veteran skin actually looks kind of cool on it. It's definitely unique. And then you're back to the Constitution skin for this ship. Now you can use the Constitution skin and still have the red Bussard collectors if you like as well. So that's cool. And of course you can change the pattern. It's got block 1K and block 1 patterns, but you can change it to any pattern. And that's basically it. So basically what you can change is the skin, which could make it look a lot different, and then the nacelle Bussard collectors, change them to Constitution Beta. And then the color of your pattern, whatever pattern you want, if you want a pattern at all. And that's going to be pretty much all you can do with this ship. So you're not really exchanging parts. It's not like you're mix and matching parts. You're really just mix and matching a pattern color or the skin type. And that's pretty much it. And then the color of the Bussard collectors and the dish. So that's cool. But again, I love this. I love this view of it right here. I mean, that's pretty cool looking. Seeing that fly in space reminds us of what they actually could have done in the movie. I mean, why not? They could have made it those colors. They could have made the skin look like that. I mean, even that right there just would have made a whole lot more sense compared to the original series. And that would have looked good in the movie. Really would have. But anyway, we'll go back to the default view of the ship for this review, since this is what it looks like by default. This is the default view of it. So this is what we'll go with for today's review. Let's visit the bridge real quick, just so you can see it, because oh my gosh, it's cool. This is of course the same bridge from the movie. It's shiny, it's bright, so put on your sunglasses, because here we go. But it is true to the movie, and I like that. They really did a good job. Cryptic did a real good job replicating the bridge from the movie. I mean, that took a lot of work to replicate the bridge, but it looks really good in the game. It looks just like the movie, so they did a good job replicating it. Whatever you think of the bridge, they did a good job replicating it. If the load time would just hurry up on me, that would be great. Anytime now, thank you very much. There you go, thank you. It listened to me for a change. Ah, there we go. So bright. Oh, it's too bright in here, as Slavic would say. And it really is bright. This thing is just, it's like a solar flare went off in here. But that's true to the movie, and so that's cool that they replicated that in the game. We have here a big view screen. Now, a lot of people don't like the fact that it's a window, right? And you see this in a lot of the renewed Star Trek series, even Discovery. Now, I'd like to remind all those people who say, but it's a window, that's a weak point in the hull. But remember, they've got transparent materials in the future. Transparent aluminum, transparent geranium, transparent, whatever the hole is made out of. You know what I mean? Take fake material and just say it's transparent. So this is not glass. That's my point. It's not a window that's glass. It's their same material as the hull, geranium, titanium, whatever it is, but just that portion of it is see-through. So it's still as strong as the hull. It's just transparent. They have that. Scotty made that canon in Star Trek 4. They've got transparent aluminum, transparent everything. So it's not glass. It's not a weak point in the hull. It is just a method of looking out through the metal. So anyway, I just want to make that point because it really bugs me that people get really upset about the fact that there's a window on the bridge. But honestly, I like looking through a window, which again is not glass, but a window, a real window, rather than a view screen. And the fact that it is a view screen too, also. I mean, it's got an overlay that can be put on it. That's the future, I think. That's the realistic future we're headed for. It wouldn't just be a big old TV screen. It would be a window that's of some different material with an overlay on it. So anyway, I like that design, and I'm very happy about that. All right, we've got here, we can access the account bank. We can contact our duty officers here. These displays look really good. We can get on the turbo lift, but not actually go anywhere. Access the library files. We can go into this turbo lift and not go anywhere. So really can't go anywhere on the ship. Select small craft. But we can look around, and it's cool to be on the bridge nonetheless and just look around. So you do get that with this ship, and that is definitely a unique experience. So there's that anyway. Alright, let's leave ship interior. Now, next thing I'm going to bring up is my build, okay? Please take note. I'm not claiming that this build is the best build for this ship. I'm not claiming that it's really awesome and everybody should replicate it. I'm just showing you what I've got on the ship so that I can demonstrate its powers to you. That's all. It works for me, but it is not the best build by any means whatsoever. Are there improvements I could make? Absolutely. Does everybody have a different opinion about how you can make a ship build? Absolutely. And every opinion is valid, and everybody flies a ship for different reasons and for a different level of fun. So keep that in mind. Okay. Now we can't look at the actual specs of the ship powers and stuff while we're on the ground. We'll have to go into space for that. But this just shows you what I'm running so that you can see what the ship has. Alright, here we go. USS, of course, I've named it the TARDIS. And it's the Kelvin Timeline Heavy Command Cruiser. All my masteries are unlocked, and we will look at that in space. Here's the unique things about this ship. It comes with these unique weapons. Right here, check this out. Kelvin Timeline Phaser Emitter Array. Now, these are very different from a single beam, a dual beam, or cannons even. These are like rapid fire turrets in a way. That's how they look and appear when you fire them. But they're as powerful as, I guess, anything. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know if they're as powerful as cannons or dual heavy cannons. I don't know how their power compares, to be honest with you. But they are unique. And I'm going to be quite honest with you right off the bat. I hate them. I don't like the way they fire, even though that's from the movie and it works just like the movie. I don't like it. To me, it just seems like it's not doing enough damage. Even though it's doing the proper amount of damage, it just doesn't feel like it. I don't feel like they're properly, you know, hitting hard enough. When a dual heavy cannon, for example, hits a target, I feel the impact. I mean, I don't know how to explain that, but I can just, like, in my bones, you know, it feels like I'm doing a lot of damage. But these emitter things, when they hit the target, it feels like I'm literally just firing off turrets. It doesn't feel like I'm doing a lot of damage. You know what I mean? There's like a disconnect between what you feel and what it's actually doing. And when I use a beam, I can feel that it just seems like it's doing better, more damage. I don't know how to explain it other than it's a feeling. And 7+ years, 8 years now of play. This is the 8th anniversary now. 8 years of playing this game. I don't like these weapons, the way these weapons feel. I can feel the difference. And to me, for my play style, for whatever, I don't like them. So I would probably, for me, continuing to use this ship, I would put back on beams. I love my anti-proton beams. And in fact, I may do that in this video. I may do a cut later on and show you a different build with beams on. So stay tuned. If I do that, I will put, if I do that, I'll put a little note right here in the video to let you know the time frame when that starts in the video, because I think it's useful to show you a different kind of build without these emitters, without these Kelvin timeline weaponry, with just regular, like, anti-proton beams, like most people would have, just to show you the difference anyway. So anyway, that's what's unique about these, is these phaser emitters. Now, I think you can get them in the exchange. Let me double check this real quick, because it does come with them, but I think you can also purchase better ones from the exchange, like if you want different modifiers and stuff. And now that we have the whole salvage system, I think we can change the modifiers on them. What I want to do here is just, I'll just pull one off, and we'll just do that. Yes, so they are definitely in the exchange. And so, like, if you wanted to go epic and see what kind of modifiers they have, yeah, there you go, like 30 million energy credits there for you know, epic quality modifiers and stuff. But you can get lesser ones, like you could get like rare, yeah, so they go all the way down to like level Mark II, and you can now, I think we should be able to modify. Nope, you cannot re-engineer. Take that back. Look at that. What if I take it off the ship? Hold on a second. No, you can. Okay. I was almost worried there for a second, but yes, you can re-engineer these. If you're not familiar with what re-engineering is, I'll put a link in the top right corner for a video where I went over re-engineering. But basically, you can now modify your modifiers. So you can change the modifiers on a weapon. And these are modifiable. So there you go. You can change the modifiers on these and make them better. So there's that. That at least is a plus. So that's cool. Now here's what I'm using. It is very resource intensive to go to epic level, and because I hate, and let me repeat, hate these emitters, I did not go through and waste my resources making all of these epic. So you will see that they are ultra rare, and that's where I stopped. I actually made a couple of them epic because it was just real easy. It just happened to be real easy for those. But these others, no, I'm leaving them at ultra rare, because ultimately I would strip them off of this ship and go with beams anyway. So I'm not even going to use them. But I do have a couple of them at epic just to demonstrate what is possible. For example, this has crit D times 3 and damage, so that's a very good modifier setup. Accuracy, damage, and then crit D times 3 and then damage. So that's a real good modifier setup right there on that one. This one has crit D times 2 and damage times 2, and then the ultra rares have like crit D times 2, crit H, damage, crit D, crit H, damage 2, crit D times 2, damage 2. Accuracy, that's not good. Accuracy, crit D, damage times 2, crit D, and then damage times 3. So they're all mixed up right now, but this is just to demonstrate what they do anyway. You could obviously modify these modifiers and make these a lot better for you, so that's good. But that's what you get with the ship, and you can of course buy more in the exchange and then upgrade them and change the modifiers. And I put all of them in the back. So all my half weapons right now are these Kelvin timeline emitters. and then I've got 3 in the front. The arc on them, what is the arc on them? Let's see. Where did it say that? 250-degree targeting arc, which is actually not terrible. They're not as narrow as cannons, I think. However, they are definitely, I guess they are closer to a beam arc. But they're not turrets, so they're not 360 degree. So don't expect these to fire forward when you fire forward with these. But let's read a little bit about them so that you are familiar with them. Beam emitters are an adapted form of weaponry that is halfway between a beam and a cannon. So that's your literal definition of these. They're halfway between a beam and a cannon. They fire a series of average damage bolts across a wide arc and make use of special beam firing modes. So if you want to enhance these, you're going to use beam firing modes. Beam fire at will, beam overload, and fire at will. That's what you want to use with these. Cannon abilities will not work. Scatter volley, all those cannon firing ones. Nope, that doesn't work on these. These are beam modifiers. Energy weapons are usually effective against starship shields and hull. Kelvin timeline phaser weapons have a chance to knock and briefly hold targets near the point of impact. So this is phaser damage. So obviously you want to have a phaser build here. These are this is phaser damage. But that's what you get out of those. It's halfway between a beam and a cannon. It fires bolts, and you use beam bridge officer modifiers for them. Whew, pretty crazy, actually. Now, this also has a unique torpedo. We've got a Kelvin timeline photon torpedo. It's just a regular photon torpedo, pretty much, but it's Kelvin-ish. It's got a 90-degree targeting arc, and this one I did go epic. I've got accuracy, damage ×2, and reload. It does kinetic damage. Torpedo launchers fire projectiles that deal heavy kinetic damage. Shields drastically reduce the effects of kinetic damage. Photon projectiles deal low damage, but they have a fast recharge. And those salvaged from the Kelvin timeline are capable of recharging even more quickly. So that's what makes the Kelvin version of these different. They recharge more quickly. Pretty much that's it. But they do kinetic damage. Now, in terms of gear set on here, I have the Soul Defense System. I've got the deflector, the impulse. I have an Elite Fleet Plasma Integrated Warp Core with AMP, ECAP, EFF, SSS weapons to Auxilary and weapons to shields. The Soul Defense Shield. And then I have a Trellium D. I've got a Xenotech Power Flow module. And then I am using the Quantum Phase Converter set, Phase Catalyst set. This increases phaser damage, so I do have 4 consoles improving phaser damage and critical chance. And then I have 1 more console in the science also increasing phaser damage plus 25%. So pretty much I've got like 5 tactical consoles. This also increases auxiliary power. I've got my temporal disentanglement suite that increases my critical chance and severity and other things. I also have sustained radiant field. This is all weapon damage buff, bonus shield heals, and hull heals as well. So that's what I'm running on the ship. It works for right now. It allows me to demonstrate what I need to demonstrate, but again, I would probably, for me, put beams on it, and this is what I had previously. I have an anti-proton build where I have beam array, dual beam bank, fleet transphasic torpedo, you know, and all that. So that's what I would probably put on this ship for me in the long run, if I were going to use this ship in the long run, not these emitters. So yes, you can put beams on here, not cannons though, but beams, single beams, dual beams, all that. Here's the unique console, the auxiliary ejection assembly. It's pretty much just like from the movie. It ejects multiple warp cores, and we'll look at the specs in space because they're different when you're on ground. And then of course the Masteries, we'll look at that. Now let's look at the bridge officer stations real quick. Note, it does have command bridge officer seating as well as temporal. I am using some command abilities, not any temporal, but I am using command abilities. I've got Concentrate Firepower 1. I also have Suppression Barrage 3, which is a command ability. Emergency Power to Weapons 3, Engineering Team 2, and Emergency Power to Shields 1. I'm using Beam Fire at Will because remember, it's beam bridge officer abilities that affect the emitters. So I'm using Fire at Will, and I'm using High Yield Torpedo, TAC Team. I've also got Beam Overload 3. So this is the cool part about having this universal slot here. I can have 2 Tier 3 tactical powers. I've got Tier 3 Beam Fire at Will, or Fire at Will 3, and then I've got Tier 3 Beam Overload. So I've got 2 Tier 3 tactical abilities thanks to this universal slot. Of course, I could have also put an engineering in there or a science, but basically that would give me a Tier 3 power in any of those careers. So that's very powerful by having that universal slot there. I can put whatever career type I want. And then for science, I've got Hazard Emitter 1 and Science Team 2, but this is where the temporal bridge officer would sit, right here in science. So you could use some science powers, or you could use all temporal in here, and then use this universal up here for your science powers. So very versatile in how you can devise the ship, which is really cool. A lot of options. But I am using command bridge officer powers to demonstrate that. I think command bridge officer powers really fit this ship better as an engineering command type of ship. Other things of note, specializations. I am using command officer, completely decked out as my primary. So command officer is my skill set that I'm using, and then pilot is my secondary, which does give me a 40% turn rate buff, which is very welcomed on a slow-moving cruiser like this. That's why I'm actually using pilot as my secondary, because you get the full passive 40% turn rate buff when you have all of the pilot maxed out. So take note of that. Command and pilot. I have the trait for this ship enabled, the down but not out trait, and I'm using some other ship traits and stuff as well. I'm going to leave those on because remember, you can take traits from the exchange and put them on your ship. Any ship can use any Starship trait. So since these traits are now a lot easier to get, you don't actually even have to have the ship. You can find these traits and stuff. I'm going to leave these on because anybody can put multiple traits on their ship, and it's very easy to do. So I'm going to leave that on here for my setup. Whew. I know that's a lot to go over, folks, but it is very important as we go into space and look at our specs, because obviously that is going to give you an idea of where we're starting from in terms of our ship abilities. So let's beam up into space. We will take a look at the specifications in space, my powers, the console ability, and all that stuff. Here we are in space. Just kind of move away from everybody because it sometimes gets noisy with everybody popping off their powers here close to ESD. Let's go out a little farther just to clear things up so we can see better. We'll let our power levels get back to normal. So you can see I'm sitting at about 123 weapons, 96 shield, 60 engine, 84 auxiliary. What that comes out to on my stats is I've got a stealth detection rating of 33.81. Power transfer rate is 309%, so very good on the power transfer rate. I got a 45 defense rating. Look at my hull strength, guys. 121,930. I have a very good hull strength on this ship. That's one of the pluses with this ship. It's a big, bulky, heavy ship. Hull repair rate, 118.2% a minute. My shields are at 20,563 capacity. That's also very good. And my resist are they're above 50%, so that's good. My crit chance is 14.3%. Crit severity is 72%. My turn rate at impulse is 15.7 degrees per second. So what does that get us? If you see here, this is me turning. I'll hold the camera still. So here's the ship turning in circles as fast as it can. Now that's with the 40% turn rate buff from the pilot specialization. So imagine without that pilot specialization active, your turn rate is actually going to be slower than this. So keep that in mind about the ship, even though it is a big heavy ship, and that means it's going to turn slower, just like any cruiser. But that's what you can expect on maneuverability with this ship. Now, when I fly it, this is it all the way zoomed in. So obviously you don't want to play the game with it all the way zoomed in. This is all the way zoomed out. So it's actually still pretty decently sized all the way zoomed out. So you could play with the ship like this all the way zoomed out if you wish. Or you could zoom in a little bit like here or here. But you probably, I mean, you could play it like this. It's just going to be a little smaller. It is a pretty big ship though, so it allows you to do that. Okay, let's look at the Masteries. What do you get under the Masteries? Well, the first one you get is absorptive hull plating. That's plus 25 physical and kinetic damage resistance rating. That's why my resistances are above 50%. Rapid repairs, regenerates hull, basically a certain percentage of your, certain part of your hull, percentage of your hull. If you're in space or if you're in combat, it differs. Enhanced hull plating, energy and radiation damage resistance, some more resistance, a lot of resistance here. And then armored hull gives you flat out plus 10% hull hit points. And then down but not out. So this is max subsystem power increase as health decreases. So the bonus starts at 80% hull and it reaches max potential at 20% hull. Up to plus 20 all subsystem power max, increasing as hull percent decreases. So with this Starship trait, you do not have to activate any powers for it to work. It's automatic, it's passive. What will happen is as you drop below 80%, it'll kick in and it will build up until the maximum at 20% hull. So you have to take, you're taking a lot of damage. And as you're doing so, as your hull drops, you gain subsystem power. So that allows you to be powerful even as your hull is dropping all the way down to 20%. Of course, by that point, you should be healing. But that'll take that back away. But that's the benefit of that trait. That's pretty simple. And you don't have to activate anything for it to happen. It just happens. Now for the console ability. This is the ejection warp core assembly thing. Having this on gives you plus 3 current and maximum auxiliary subsystem power and a bonus exotic damage. So if you want to use some exotic science ability things, you could here. Kinetic AoE and speed turn buff. Launch your auxiliary warp cores, which will travel 2 kilometers behind your current position before detonating in a 5-kilometer radius. You get plus 150% speed and plus 300% turn rate for 4 seconds. What that basically does is allow you to fire off the warp cores and then get the heck out of there quickly. That's what that does. You have immunity to movement debuffs for 4 seconds. So like if you're stuck in like an immunity thing, this will get you out of that. It does 4,893.3 kinetic damage times 4, and it's got a 2-minute recharge. And it is part of the alternate timeline set. Notice there's a proton charge launcher, a mining drill laser, and a broadside emitter. All of those things make up the alternate timeline set. You get a bonus called standardized armaments, subatomic elasticity, and timeline resonance. None of those do I have, except maybe the whatever comes with the vengeance, but I haven't reviewed that yet, so I'm not sure. And obviously I don't have the other things. And then you haven't tried them all together yet, but it is a set that exists. You just have to have those 4 different parts, which would take up a lot of console slots, to be honest with you. So I'm not sure if it'd be worth it or not. But the bonuses you get: standardized armaments, you get plus 25% kinetic damage for photon torpedoes and mines, plus 25% phaser damage, so even more phaser damage. That'd be like having 6 tactical consoles. Subatomic elasticity, plus 50 physical damage resistant rating, so a lot of resistance, plus 25 kinetic damage resistance rating. Incoming healing increases by 0 to 50% as hull decreases. And then the last one is timeline resonance, plus 50% recharge speed for all Kelvin universal consoles. So that's pretty much what it does. Again, I have not played with any of that, so I'm not sure how any of that works, but it's capable. The ship is capable of it. The console is capable of it. You can have all that on there if you want. Now, I cannot fire off the auxiliary warp cores unless I'm in combat. As you can see here, it will not let me. So I will show you that ability while I'm in combat. Before I even show it to you, I'll let you know right now, I do not find it that useful. Every now and then it gets me out of a pinch, but I mostly miss the enemy with these things. I try to fire them off thinking of where the enemy will be behind me, and I pretty much always miss, and they really don't do any damage to the enemy. So I'm pretty poor at using these. But they do get me out of immunities or movement debuffs, pretty much. Immunity to movement debuffs every now and then. And that's pretty much it. I really do not find it to be extremely useful. But other people may. I guess if you use it absolutely correctly every time, it could be useful, but I don't know. Not really a thing that really makes or breaks it for me. Okay, let's look at the inspiration stuff, because that's unique. That is definitely unique. See these 3 buttons here. This is the inspiration. And see the percentage right now is 0%. So basically, when you're in combat, you will start gaining this inspiration when you use bridge officer consoles or bridge officer abilities. But it will go up more when you use command abilities. So like suppression barrage and concentrate firepower. That's why I have these on here. Also, they're good abilities to have, but they make this inspiration counter rise faster. And when it gets to 100%, you can pop off only one of these abilities, and then you have to wait for it to reach 100% again before you can pop off another or the same one. So the first one we'll look at, this is Turn the Tide. It's a team resistance and whole regen buff. It affects friend and self. To target, you get plus 100 all damage resistance rating for 15 seconds. And to your team, you get plus 300% whole regen per minute. And to self, inspirational generation lockout for 15 seconds. So you have to wait 15 seconds before you can start building more inspiration. So basically, if you're all about to die and you need a lot of resistance, or you're taking on a lot of damage, you and your team, pop off this one. The next one is called Against All Odds. It's a team damage buff and weapon power cost reduction. So to target, you get plus 33% bonus all damage, and to team minus 100% weapon power cost. So again, if you're hitting a real big hard enemy and you need just a lot more firepower and damage to you and your team, then hit Against All Odds, because you get a plus 33% bonus all damage. So that's very useful. So when you need to do more damage, hit that middle one. And then lastly is Battle Preparation. It affects friend and self. Let's see, to self, all your inspiration goes away. To self, inspiration generation lockout. To team, cannot use or be affected by battle preparation for 120 seconds. Bridge officer power recharge times reduced dramatically as well with this. I don't really find that one to be useful at all, just being honest. I mainly use Against All Odds to do more damage. unless I'm just really dying and having a hard time, then I can kick off Turn the Tide. But again, you can only kick them off when you hit 100%, and then you have to wait to do it again. So that's what you have to do on that one. It's a little wonky because you have to wait for it to hit. You can't use them that often. It's not something you're going to be using over and over and over again a lot. You're pretty much in any battle going to maybe use them once or twice, and that's it. Again, for my other bridge officer abilities, I am using a couple of command bridge officer abilities here, and everything else is just standard bridge officer abilities you would find. I do have Boost Morale 2, which is from the command skills. This is to team. It's an ongoing removal of all debuffs and control effects for 4 seconds. Pretty cool if you've got a lot of debuffs going on you and your team and stuff. You can remove them. So that's about it on the powers. I mean, I can't really show you or demonstrate these until we go into battle. I can, however, look at the DPS of our weapons, just so you know where I'm sitting here, and I didn't want to bring that up. I want that. Show that. So for the emitters, for the ones that are epic, they're about 1400 DPS and 1750 phaser. This one's 1796 phaser and 1437 DPS. The ultra rare is going to be less. It's 1321 DPS, 1651 phaser. Obviously these all are not epic, they're just ultra rare. So 1355 DPS, 1694. It's just going to vary depending on the modifiers. But these are down just a little bit because they're not epic. But that's what I'm using right now. That's what I'm running. The torpedo is 7,557 kinetic damage. You also have a plus 20% accuracy rating and plus 100 armor penetration from something I got going on there. 25% chance of plus 20 shield power for 10 seconds after activating torpedo weapons. So I've got other things going on with the ship, DOFs and stuff like that too. But basically, that's the configuration of this ship. We've got our command, our cruiser array abilities down here, all our other abilities. And that's pretty much where we are right now. Got a lot of things going on. And you'll see, as you saw in the intro montage, you'll see how it all works together. To be a very capable Tier 6 starship, very capable for sure, a lot of features and a lot of abilities and a lot of flexibility in the build that you can do with this ship. This ship may be controversial to fans and non-fans on the screen because of the whole timeline change and all that, and the fact that it is large. But in the game here, Star Trek Online, it's a good ship in terms of combat. It would be worth having this ship. I want to see if I can kind of find a size comparison for you to give you an idea of how it compares by size. If I could find a Galaxy class, that would be great. But you can see it's like a little bit bigger than that ship actually. It's a big ship. I do not see, there's another one down there. I do not see a Galaxy class I can compare it to. But here's a Sovereign. Yeah, look at that. So it's as big as a Sovereign. I mean, that right there just shows you how big this ship is. It's bulkier too. I mean, that's a lot more thinner and sleek. This thing is bulky. But I mean, it's as big as that ship. So, quite a large ship, given the fact it's from the 23rd century. Very large ship. Well, at this point, I've pretty much gone over everything that I could possibly go over, and it's just time to take this thing into combat and to show you how it works. And so that's going to be the next part of our video. We're going to queue up for some things, and I'm going to take it into combat and comment on that. We'll do some content against other players. Well, not against other players, but with other players, doing some of the queues. And then we'll take it into some patrols so we can fly it solo, so I can demonstrate some of the abilities. Actually, I think we'll go do the solo stuff first, actually. We'll go do some patrols first, so that I can demonstrate how the emitters work, the firing arcs, the emitters, how the bridge officer powers affect those, and to use the console and all that so you can see it in action before we go up against other things. So I'm going to pause the video right here and stand by. When we come back, we will be at Japori, ready to do a patrol so I can demonstrate the abilities to you. And welcome back, everybody. So here we are at Japori. I am starting at Japori because it is an easy patrol. We know what to expect, and we can test out the abilities of the ship. Note, I am in advanced difficulty, so this will be more difficult than the normal difficulty, but this is still going to allow me to show off the abilities. The first thing that we're going to look at when I go in here is we're going to look at how the emitters fire, the phaser emitters. I'm going to fire them off normally first, without any bridge officer beam buffs. And then, after that, I will show you what beam overload looks like, and then beam fire at will with the emitters. This way you get an idea for what they look like and how they fire. I will fire them from the front arc first, so you can see that. I'll also fire it broadside, so you can see what they look like broadside, and I'll even turn around backwards and fire them from behind, so you can see that as well, just to give you an idea of how it fires on all arcs. And let's see, just also note the torpedo will be automatically firing as well, so you can watch that and see what it does. And otherwise, listen to the audio, because the phaser emitters have a distinct audio to them. So again, I'm not going to do any buffs right now. I'm not going to hit any bridge officer abilities. We're just going to go straight in here, and I'm just going to fire them on the enemy so you can see what they look like. Here we go. Here's the frontal arc. And listen to that sound effect. There's the torpedo. There's the phasers. We'll go ahead and hit that so we don't die immediately here. But that's how they sound and look from the front. They're firing like right down here, you can see. We'll go ahead and destroy this enemy. Shouldn't take but just a second more. I have not done any emergency powered weapons, which would increase my damage, so this is just the base damage right now. I am taking a lot of damage though. My shields are almost gone, but there, we got him. Alright, we got him. We got him good. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do, let me replenish my shields a little bit. The next thing I want to do is show you what it looks like firing from the side. So we're going to broadside all these enemies here and hit them from the side of our ship. Just get oriented, and then I will fire. Here we go. There we go. That's how it looks like from the side. That's where it's firing from. And I got that one pretty quick. This one's being feisty. Again, I haven't used any buffs yet. Let's do it from the side again. Here we go. And then here's the rear. Now see, my meter is starting to build very slightly, my inspiration meter. If I use more bridge officer abilities, it'll make that go up a lot faster, but I have not yet. We'll look at that in a second. First, I want you to focus on these emitters. Okay, so that's pretty much how they fire and what they look like. Now let me show you what beam overload would look like. We'll hit beam overload, and here's what it would look like. A big old burst, and then it goes to the small bursts. And that's it. That's beam overload. Now we can do fire at will. Let this replenish here. And you see it's pretty much just like your beams would fire. It fires in multiple directions. It's multiple enemies at the same time. Here's beam overload again. A big old burst and then back to small ones. There's more side firing. Again, I am on advanced difficulty, so it is taking a little longer to take out the enemies, but it is more difficult, but it allows you to see how that works more. Let's go over here and look, my inspiration is still building because I was using my bridge officer abilities. When I hit a bridge officer ability, you'll notice that it does go up when I'm in combat. See, it went up to 30 there. Here's fire at will again. Now I'm really firing all over the place here. Almost like turrets, but not really the same arc as a turret because they're not 360 degrees. I'll go ahead and buff my energy damage. That was a beam overload right there. That did a fair amount of damage. There goes a torpedo. That didn't do much damage because the shields were up on that ship. Do my command array. My shields are going down again. But that should give you a good idea on what the emitter phaser thingies are all about. Very unique firing pattern for this ship. Here's here's spread torpedoes, and then fire at will phaser emitters, and then here's a beam overload. So you can start doing combinations of these. Let's get a high yield in there. There we go. We've got the last group. My inspiration, it keeps building as I use bridge officer powers. Now if I use my command abilities, watch how high it goes. It'll jump up. It'll jump way up there, except I just wasted. You have to be in combat for that to work. You have to fire on them first. I made that mistake. Oops. See, to me, these phaser emitters just don't sound like they do a lot of damage. They sound like pea shooters, you know? It sounds like dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, like a really, really tiny sound, a tiny thing. It's just the way it sounds to me and the way it looks. It just doesn't look like it's doing a lot of damage. Well, we took out that group. So that should give you a good idea on how the phaser emitters work. I didn't use any other of the unique abilities of the ship there. That was just to demonstrate the emitters. We'll go to another group now, and we'll use the... What will we use? Let's use the console, which is the Auxilary Warp Core Ejection. Now, I can use it right now because I was in combat, and I'm in a space where it's allowed to be used right now. I could pop it off now so you can see it. Let me go ahead and do that, actually, just so you can see it by itself. Here's what it does. It pops those off. They explode, and then look at my turn rate. My turn rate goes through the roof. Look at this. I'm drifting. I mean, it's crazy. My speed and turn rate really increases when you pop those off. But then it's gone. That basically allows you to get out of the way, and those have large explosions behind them. But like I said, I honestly have a lot of trouble aiming those at the enemy just right to hit them with a lot of damage. I actually have a lot of trouble with that. 2 minutes cooldown for that ability again. So I don't find it an extremely useful ability, but it is an ability anyway. Another ability, one that I can't really demonstrate because you can't activate it, is to watch for the Starship Trait down but not out. This one, remember, will just activate on its own when your hull goes below 80%, all the way down to 20, and at 20 it's maxed out. So as my hull drops, and in the next one we'll do a session where I allow my hull to drop, I'll let it drop and basically just watch the power levels. That's how you'll see if that one's working. Let's warp out of here and go to the next patrol, and we'll do the warp core ejection thing. Remember, it also gets you out of holds. So if you're held by something, it will get you out of that. Let's go to Karaya. And we start off on Karaya with, I believe, a Dideridex Romulan and a Mogai Romulan ship. So I will try to aim the rear of the ship at the enemy and pop off the warp cores to see how much damage they do. I will try. I may not hit it, may not hit my mark here, but I'm gonna give it a shot. And if anything, it will just help me maneuver faster and get out of anything that's holding me. That's really where I find the most benefit, is when I'm being held. So let's zoom in here. I will go ahead and buff these things up so I don't die. And we'll try to get my back end here lined up and just kind of pop them off. There we go. See, look, I was right on it, but look, it did no damage to them at all. And I was right on that sucker too. And that's what I find to be the most problem when I use these. It seems like I'm lined up like perfectly with them, but then it does absolutely no damage. So what's the point? I don't know. Let's go ahead and destroy this group, and we'll try it on another group. Maybe it works better when there's a lot of ships. We'll see, because the next spawning group has multiple ships. So let's take these guys out real quick. Okay, that group is dispatched. There's the next group. As you can see, it's a larger group, but I've still got 40 seconds on here, so I really need to let that cool down. How can I fix that? I can't really do anything to speed that up. We'll just try it one more time because, like I said, this console I really do not end up using much at all. It's just not a useful thing to me. We'll try it on this Mogai, I guess. See if we can hit it just right. That's really the thing, right? You gotta hit it just right. And it's moving, so it's hard to hit. Yeah, look, I missed it already. Maybe that did a little bit more damage, but not a ton. At least it allows me to maneuver like that really crazily. Otherwise, meh. Meh on the console. I do a lot more damage just firing at the ship. Okay, on this next group, I'm going to let them take my hull down so that we can see the power levels rise. I'm going to fire on them so they'll attack me, but I'm going to stop firing and hopefully they will attack me and bring my hull down. There we go. There's my hull level going down. Okay, I think my power levels are increasing. I can't tell. It's down but not out on. Yeah, down but not out is on. Okay, my power levels are up there. I'm about to blow up, but my power levels are up there. Yeah, 115 on the shield, 80, no, 60, 83, maybe. 136 now with my shield, but I just did emergency power to shields. Okay, I guess it works. It's just hard to tell, because when you're at that low of a hull strength, you know, it's like, geez, you're concentrating on so many other things. But it's cool to have that power buff when your hull goes down like that. So that's down but not out, and that's the unique console. That should give you a good idea of what those do and what they look like. Let's heal up a bit here. Those are the unique abilities. The next unique ability is obviously just using my inspiration abilities here. Like this one I really love here, Against All Odds. So let's get this thing to 100 so I can pop it off for you. Alright, on this next group I'm going to use my command abilities because that will make my counter go up here. I've got to go into combat first and then using my command abilities, there we go, we're almost at 100. Can use something else, there we go. Now we can use, there it is. It's hard to tell, but pretty much I am doing more damage. You know, on a big enemy, it really does help. Let's take out this next group. I want to build it up again. We'll have to go to another patrol, and I'll show you the defensive one on it. Oh, let's use the warp core thing again. Here we go. Not that it will do a whole lot, but there, that's it. Okay, that patrol is done.
Congratulations, Admiral.
Let's go to another patrol, and we will do the inspiration again. So I showed you there the offensive one, which is the one in the middle, and now I'll show you the defensive one. Basically, I like the offensive one better because it gives you more damage. But if you are in a tough situation, then the other one can help as well. So the only downside is, of course, you have to wait till you build up that counter to 100%. And that can take a while, especially if you're not really using a ton of bridge officer abilities. Or let's say you don't have any command bridge officer abilities. It will take a while for that meter to build up. If you have a lot of command abilities, it makes that meter build up a lot faster. But that's really the downside of it. You have to wait for that to fill up, then use it, and then it's gone again. And you got to do it all, start all over again. So in a battle situation, you know, you're pretty much only going to use it about once or maybe twice in an STF. And that's about it. That's about all that you can use it. I'm just going to hit a lot of my bridge officer abilities so that we can get the meter built up real quick. And even doing that, it takes a long time to build up. You can see how long it's taking to build up right now. Like if I wanted to use it on this enemy, no chance. Just building too slow to use it. Still only at 57. Come on. By the time I dispatch all the enemies, I won't even have a chance to use it. And that's really the problem with it, is by the time you're ready to use it, all the enemies are already dead. You killed them all. 78%? Dang, come on, man. Build. 84%. 87. 90. 96, or almost there. Now I can pop it off. Here goes Turn the Tide. That's it. Let's turn the tide. It's a defensive thing. And now there's no enemies firing at me at all, so I totally wasted it. And that, my friends, is the problem with inspiration. In a nutshell, you just saw the main problem with it. By the time I'm ready to use it, the whole group of enemies is dead and it has no benefit to me. And again, that console is pretty darn useless. So I'm not too enthused about a couple of these powers. Inspiration is still building, but by the time I'm done with this group, I'll be done with the group. I won't have a chance to use it again. 87%, but by the time it's ready, that group is gone. I might be able to use it on this last group. We'll see. Yeah, I think I will be able to. So we'll go ahead and choose the last one to show off for you, which is battle preparation. Here goes battle preparation. Oh. Yeah, I don't notice that one doing a whole lot for me either. There you go. That is combat with the Kelvin Timeline Heavy Command Cruiser in a nutshell. So, as you can see, the console ability with the auxiliary warp cores is, in my opinion, not an extremely useful ability. I never actually end up doing any damage to the enemies by firing it off. The only benefit I really get from it is a very quick maneuverability and then getting out of anything I'm being held by. That's pretty much it. Doing damage with it doesn't quite work out. Now, the other ability, the inspiration abilities, in theory, they could work nice, but it takes so long to build up the inspiration on it. By the time you do that, you've already got the enemy defeated, and it's not helpful anymore. And then it takes so long to rebuild it again before you can use it again, you just end up not using it much because it's just not there a lot for you to use. And third, the power buff with the trait. That one is cool, and I like that one because you don't have to activate it yourself. It's passive, it does it automatically. You don't have to do anything, and every time your hull goes down, it just activates and you get higher power. That is cool. So that ability I like. I like the Starship Trait. But the warp core thing and the inspiration abilities don't quite work out for me, at least. That's my opinion on those two abilities. We'll do a little bit more combat before we finish off here. Let's queue up for a good old Infected the Conduit Advanced. Everybody does that. This is a pug, as you can see, so hopefully this will go well. I don't know. But this will give you an idea of how it performs in an STF. And then we might also do something Zenkethi, because that can be quite tough on ships. And that will pretty much be a good showing or overview of how this thing operates in combat. And then I'll probably go ahead, like I said, and switch over real quick to a beam build just to quickly show you an alternative method of firing with the ship. Is everybody coming or not? Only got up to 30% inspiration right there, so yeah, that wasn't helpful. I lost my mouse cursor for a second there. Hate it when that happens. Target. Target. I hate how slow it has to retarget. The retargeting is in this game.
I wonder if the warp cores would help here. I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try something. Bam, bam, bam. Make a difference or not? I'm not sure. Maybe I made a difference there. Woo! Some fancy flying. Now I need it. I'm stuck. It's got me in a tractor beam.
Where we will begin assimilating our culture and technology.
So, fire on this. Ooh, okay, I got inspiration. Let's fire that off. Because we need it right now. Spears everywhere. There you go. Infected the conduit on advanced and did that pretty well. Pretty easy in this ship. One good thing about this ship is it can take a lot of damage. It's got a high hull strength, so it can really take a beating. So that's quite nice. So even if some of the abilities on it are not very useful, at least it is a very good cruiser for you. See, I never even built up a second inspiration. I got to 90%, but I was able to fire off one of the inspiration, but then I never got to a second one. So that's what I mean about that. It's just that by the time it's ready to go, you've already got everything dead. So there's no point. I don't like abilities that are useless, that you can't use. Having to build up a meter and then fire it off just doesn't work. What else can we do? I know. Let's do a red alert, but let's do a Zenkethi red alert. How about that? And we're gonna pug it as well. And let's do oh, there is no advance, just one level, right? Yeah, okay. Let's do that. We're gonna pug it, and that's a good test because the new Zenkethi red alert can be a little bit difficult. The battleships are harder to take down, that's for sure. And it can be fun. Also, the ship just looks good. It's got a good aesthetic to it, no matter what you think about the reboot or whatever of the movies. The ship on its own has an interesting, appealing look to it. Yeah, the nacelles should be wider apart and blah blah blah, higher up and all that. But still, it looks good. Looks good when it's flying through space, you know? Maybe this will pop soon. We might actually go do an Argala. I have not done an Argala in a while. I think I might want to go to the Delta Quadrant. So while that is going on, let's just go the old-fashioned way. That way I can transwarp back real easy. And we'll probably finish up with that right after this red alert. It looks good flying through space. It really does. It's got a good solid look to it. It is a little big for the era, but interesting enough anyway. Interesting they made it a tier 6 ship in this game, of all things. But of course, that's the idea, so you can play it in-game. This is their way of giving us a tier 6 Constitution, basically. They've done it, just with an alternate timeline Enterprise ship. See, this is what I don't like about the new queue. That happens, it pops, whatever, and then you're still left waiting. It's like, okay, now what do I do? When is it going to go? And then it just randomly goes in at any given time.
The Zenkethi, they will send a
So this is the Zenkethi Red Alert. We got to take out Zenkethi ships, which can be pretty difficult. And we wait. We're going to go left. When it hits 5, I'm going to buff up.
Warning. Ship is under attack.
All ships, this is Martok. Prepare for battle.
This is Captain Zencrovel. Purge that planet and...
Get their cruisers first. They're the backbone of a Zenkethi fleet.
Ignore the Butcher. Concentrate fire on the planet. I will deal with him later.
Destroy enemy battleships to bring out their dreadnought. They're launching protomatter torpedoes. Destroy them!
Now we'll get
Take
into
out
this
those
ship.
ships!
Take out their big old battleship here. See, it just doesn't sound like my weapons are doing a whole lot, does it? It just sounds so puny. It really does. It sounds so puny. Got him.
I won't tolerate these developments.
Hey, I got all those ships. Had one person helping me. That was nice. Ooh, they're back. Alright, here goes the warp core thing. I'm gonna see if I can do some damage to these guys. And I did none. None at all. They got some problems going on that side. They need to start attacking their battleships. I'm going to go help them on the other side because they are obviously not doing anything over here to attack their ships, which you got to do that. You have to come take out the battleship. That's the whole point.
Warning. Ship is under attack.
Almost got another inspiration. I'm going to need it too. I'm going to call in some reinforcements. I need them. We got a ton of ships here.
We have lost a satellite. Watch for
We
torpedo
lost
attacks.
the satellite already. Nobody was attacking these ships at all, which I can't believe.
This has gone on long enough. Destroy the Butcher.
Now we've got
There's the Senkethi flagship.
the flagship.
Destroy it at once.
I'm gonna try the warp core thing one more time. I don't really think that did anything. Another inspiration.
Destroy that dreadnought. Our time runs short.
I'm working on it.
Excellent work.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, that was a little rough. Zenkethi ones typically are. Don't know that this often happens in this red alert, but for some reason you'll get a team or a side where they will just totally ignore their battleships here, and they keep sending tons and tons of proto-matters, but they totally ignore the battleships and they just don't take them out. And so I have to go to the rescue. I have to take out one on the side I'm working on and then hop over to the other side and take it out too. I often have to do that. I don't know what people are thinking. Anyway, yeah, that was pretty rough there actually, but I did get to use inspiration a few times in that, which was nice. But as you can see, my ship is pretty tough. I did not blow up, and I was able to do some damage and take out those battleships. So it's a tough ship. I mean, it actually is a capable starship for sure. Delta Quadrant, let's go there. We're gonna do one more patrol. We're gonna do Argala. It's been a while since I've done it, and I just want to do it. We're gonna go do Argala, and then after that, I'm gonna throw on those anti-proton beams I've got, and take a look at Japori or something like that, just with some beams on there, just to show you a little difference. something you can do different with the ship. Because like I said, you don't have to use these emitters. You can use regular beams if you want. Patrol Argala. Okay, let's take out this group here. Erosion. Again, I'm in advanced difficulty, so I'm playing this patrol in advanced difficulty, not normal, so that does make it a little more tough. So if you were playing all this on normal, you'd probably have an easier time than I am. But I want to show it to you in a difficult mode like this, so you get a good idea for how the ship performs in difficult situations. Keep hitting me with that subnucleonic beam, killing my abilities. The erosion are pretty tough, actually. Those tractor beams are stupid. Who would have thought the erosion will be the ones that take me out? They are tough. But I am tougher. Tough battleship. Alright, now I can use the warp core to get out of here. That helps. Yeah, this is difficult on advanced difficulty. It really is. The erosion here. Okay, alright, making progress. Inspiration almost built up again. Definitely gonna use it. Okay, last group. Jeez, that escort just will not die. And then I got this flagship on me here. Well, I survived that only thanks to some fancy flying, because that was really tough on advanced difficulty there. But that should give you a good indication and idea of how this ship operates in difficult situations like that. So I hope you enjoyed the pain I suffered on that one. Alright, let's go back to the Alpha Quadrant, or Beta Quadrant actually, and let us put on those anti-proton beams and just do one more patrol, one more. This way I can show you what the ship looks like with regular old beams, just to prove it does work. And then at the end I will summarize everything for you. And I guess we could just transwarp back to the Beta Quadrant. Is there a Beta Quadrant transwarp? I don't know. But this will take us real close to where we need to be anyway. Close to the planetoids. The patrols that we're going to do. Let's go to Beta Quadrant. Now, let's go ahead and just put them on right here in this part of space. Let us take you off, and you. I'll leave the torpedo, because that's not important. We'll take that off, that off, that off, and that off. We're going to put these two dual beam bank anti-protons up front. We're going to put, I guess, one of you up front. You and you in the back, and you in the back. What are you? Wait, are you anti-proton? You are phaser, so you do not belong there. You are anti-proton, aren't you? Anti-proton, yes. And then you're kinetic. Okay, gotcha. Now I also need to take off my tactical consoles because I'm not firing phaser anymore. We are now doing anti-proton. See, that's anti-proton, right? Yes. And that is 2, yes it is. And this is 2, yes it is, anti-proton. And then this one should be anti-proton as well, and it is. Okay, leave that there, not using those. Everything else I'll just leave the same for right now. The whole point of this is just to show with beams here. Just make sure auto firing is still enabled on all my stuffs. And it is. So we're good to go. Let's go to good old Japori so we can demonstrate this ship with regular old beams. I don't even have to change my bridge officer powers. Still got beam overload and beam fire at will. So that works nicely. Now I've got anti-protons instead of phasers, which means this phaser damage on this is doing nothing for me now. And we'll keep the Kelvin Torpedo on. Yeah, let's do that. Enter Japori. And now we wait. So, yeah. I'm not too fond of the emitters. I mean, it's cool at first. It's like a novelty. It's fun, it's cool. But then you get tired of how it actually works. And you start looking at it like, wow, I'm really not doing a lot of damage. I'd rather use something different. Good old, nothing beats a good old beam, you know. Sometimes you just have to have a good old beam. Much more satisfying. That is so much more satisfying in my opinion. Because when my beams hit them, I know that it's hitting them. They're not missing. Oh yeah, so much better. Like this. Last group. One more time with the warp core for good old sake arguments. Didn't do a whole lot, of course. And there you go. Now you've seen the ship with beam weapons as well. And for me personally, if I were to fly this ship long term, I would stick with beams. Even though the emitters are fun at first, maybe, I'm going to stick with beams on this ship. That's my playstyle anyway. Alright, let's go back to the Sol system and we will digest everything we've learned. Sol, where are you? Now, if you notice, the warp effect on it is the same warp effect from the movie. It's got that trailing nacelle effect, which is really cool. Okie dokie. So that is the Kelvin Timeline Heavy Command Cruiser. What I like about the ship is it has a very high hull strength. It's a tough ship. It will take a ton, it'll take a beating and keep going. It looks cool. It's unique. What I don't like about the ship, the emitters are kind of weird. The warp core explosion thing doesn't work right. Or doesn't work for me anyway. Doesn't do damage to the enemy. And the inspiration abilities you can't really use a whole lot because you have to wait for the counters to build. And that's going to be dependent on how many bridge officer powers you have, how many command powers you have, how often you hit your bridge officer powers, and so forth and so on in an STF. You may only get to use an inspiration about once in an STF. So that doesn't make it extremely useful. I do, however, like the Starship Trait because you do not have to activate. It just does it automatically and you get a power subsystem buff. That's quite nice. More power is always better. So that's cool. And I like the flexibility and customization of the ship. The bridge officer seating, extremely customizable. You can use both temporal and command powers. You can use, of course, regular bridge officer powers. The console setup is very nice. You've got 4 tactical and 4 engineering, so you can make it a very tactically focused, engineered ship. It is very cool, and it's got 4 fore and 4 aft weapon slots, so you can load it out with a very, very big weapon array on this ship. And the Kelvin Torpedo is actually not bad. I like the Kelvin Timeline Torpedo. I just don't like the emitters, but I like the torpedo. And remember, if you do use the phaser, the emitters on here, you will have to go with a phaser energy build to do that. So that is this ship. It may be controversial. It may, you know, have shaken up the game a bit when they introduced it, that this kind of thing would be in the game. When I originally started playing this game during the first year of Star Trek Online, it was during when the first movie in 2009 was out. So there was a lot of discussion whether this was the prime timeline and if they were ever going to have any of the alternate timeline stuff in the game. And at the time, everyone was like, nah, they'll never do it. They'll stick to prime timeline and they'll never, ever, ever do anything with the Kelvin timeline. Well, lo and behold, 2016, they did. And of course, we all know it is almost a money grab. Maybe it is a money grab because they know people are going to want that ship. They're going to buy the lock boxes. They're going to try to open it. It's a way for them to make money, so I can't blame them for that. But at the first couple of years of this game, for sure, most people thought no, they would never ever do anything with the Kelvin timeline or that alternate timeline, and we would stick just to the prime timeline universe. And here we are, they've done it. So I guess things like that can change over the course of time. So now the game is also opened up to Star Trek Discovery stuff. We have Star Trek Discovery ships in the game as well. So really there are no limits. If it's a Star Trek IP, it can be in the game. And that's what we see here with this ship. But this is actually a pretty good ship. Even if you do not like the rebooted movies, this ship in the game, as far as the game goes, is a solid ship. you could have a lot of fun with this ship in this game. So, as far as this game goes, I definitely do give this ship in the A category. It is an A. I don't know if it's an A plus ship, but it's maybe around just an A. Not an A minus, not an A plus, just an A right in the middle there. That is my review, everybody, of the Kelvin Timeline Heavy Command Cruiser in Star Trek Online. Let me know in the comments if you fly the ship. Do you enjoy it? Do you hate it? Do you plan on getting it? And see this sucker right here behind it? That's coming in a review too. Oh yeah. So there you go. Alright everybody, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the next one.